Few American coins have spent more time quietly passing from one hand to another than the 1935 Lincoln head cent, better known today as part of the beloved Wheat Penny series. At first glance it appears ordinary, a small bronze coin that once purchased everyday necessities during one of the most difficult decades in American history. Yet collectors have learned that appearances can be remarkably deceptive. Beneath its familiar portrait and simple wheat ears lies a fascinating story shaped by the lingering effects of the Great Depression, improvements in minting technology, and decades of circulation that erased countless examples from existence. Some surviving pieces have become far more desirable than most people would ever expect, while others remain common reminders of America's past. As this story unfolds, you'll discover why certain authenticated 1935 Lincoln cents have earned remarkable attention in the collector market, what certified examples have sold for under specific conditions, and which characteristics experts examine before assigning any meaningful value to one of these historic coins. The 1935 Lincoln cent was struck during a period when the United States was still struggling to recover economically after the financial collapse of 1929. President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal programs were reshaping American society, public works projects employed millions of workers, and confidence in the nation's economy was slowly beginning to return. Even during these difficult years, commerce depended heavily on small-denomination coinage, making the humble cent an essential part of everyday transactions. The Lincoln cent itself had already become a familiar symbol since its introduction in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Unlike earlier American cents featuring symbolic figures, this series honored a real historical president, marking an important milestone in United States coinage. By 1935, Americans used these coins to buy newspapers, candy, bread, bus fares, and countless other daily necessities. Millions of them entered circulation immediately after leaving the presses, beginning journeys that often lasted decades before eventually finding their way into collections, jars, drawers, or forgotten family heirlooms. Collectors recognize the 1935 issue through several different mint varieties. Coins without a mint mark were produced at the Philadelphia Mint, while those carrying a small D beneath the date's opposite side on the reverse were struck in Denver, and examples bearing an S came from the San Francisco Mint. Together, these facilities produced well over 400 million Lincoln cents that year, although each mint contributed different production totals and strike characteristics that remain important to specialists today. Every genuine coin should weigh approximately 3.11 grams, measure 19.05 millimeters in diameter, feature a plain edge, and consist of an alloy containing 95% copper with the remaining 5% primarily tin and zinc. The rich bronze composition gave newly minted coins their vibrant reddish appearance, although decades of oxidation gradually transformed many into deeper brown shades. Because each mint maintained its own dyes and production standards, experienced collectors often notice subtle differences in strike sharpness, luster, and overall eye appeal between Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco issues, even when comparing coins preserved in similar conditions. Victor David Brenner's artistic design continued to define the series in 1935, blending simplicity with unmistakable American symbolism. The obverse displays Abraham Lincoln facing right, accompanied by the national motto "In God We Trust" above his portrait, the word liberty to the left and the date to the right. Brenner's initials, discreetly positioned near Lincoln's shoulder, acknowledge the sculptor whose work forever changed American coin design. The reverse presents two elegant wheat stalks framing the inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America, while the motto EPLURIBUSUNUM stretches across the upper portion. This composition became one of the most recognizable designs in United States numismatic history, remaining in production until 1958 before giving way to the Lincoln Memorial reverse. Although millions of 1935 cents were struck, production dies gradually wore down under constant pressure, meaning not every coin left the mint with equally sharp details. Strongly struck examples showing crisp wheat lines, bold lettering, and distinct features in Lincoln's beard, hair, and coat are naturally more desirable than softly impressed pieces displaying weakness from worn dies. Condition ultimately separates an ordinary 1935 wheat penny from one capable of attracting serious bidding at major auctions. Professional grading services evaluate every surviving coin according to internationally recognized standards, ranging from heavily circulated examples to pristine mint state specimens that never experienced commercial use. Specialists also classify copper coins by color, using the designations brown, and red, with fully original red examples commanding the strongest premiums because so few retain their brilliant mint color after nearly a century. A heavily circulated coin with worn details may remain historically interesting while carrying only modest collector demand, but sharply preserved mint state pieces displaying vibrant surfaces, attractive luster, and minimal contact marks become dramatically more desirable. Authenticated examples certified around MS65 red have sold in the neighborhood of approximately $1,400 to $2,300 depending on the mint, eye appeal, and prevailing market conditions. These values reflect certified collector demand rather than ordinary circulation finds, reminding buyers that preservation quality often matters just as much as the date itself. Beyond condition alone, advanced collectors constantly search for varieties and minting errors that distinguish one 1935 cent from millions of others. Repunched mint marks, die cracks, die clashes, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and dramatic lamination flaws all represent legitimate mint-produced anomalies that can significantly increase collector interest when properly authenticated. Genuine doubled dies from this date are studied carefully, although many coins mistakenly believed to display doubling actually exhibit mechanical doubling or damage acquired long after leaving the mint. Authentication therefore becomes essential before assigning premium value to any unusual-looking specimen. Certified examples displaying significant mint errors or scarce die varieties sometimes attract competitive bidding far beyond standard collector prices because they represent unusual moments in the production process that cannot easily be duplicated. Even so, experienced numismatists caution against assuming every imperfect-looking coin is rare, since corrosion, cleaning, environmental damage, and post-mint alterations frequently imitate genuine mint errors. Careful examination under proper magnification, combined with comparison against documented reference varieties, remains the safest approach before reaching conclusions about rarity. Authentication has become increasingly important as counterfeit techniques continue to improve and online marketplaces expose collectors to both genuine opportunities and deceptive reproductions. Reputable grading organizations examine a coin's weight, diameter, metallic composition, strike characteristics, die markers, and microscopic surface texture before encapsulating authentic pieces in tamper-evident holders. Experts also inspect the shape of numerals in the date, lettering style, mint mark placement, and countless tiny diagnostic features that counterfeiters often overlook. Cleaning represents another major concern because abrasive polishing, chemical dipping, or artificial recoloring can permanently reduce a coin's desirability even when it remains authentic. Proper preservation is surprisingly straightforward. Hold the coin only by its edges, avoid touching the surfaces with bare fingers, and store it inside inert archival holders or certified slabs in a stable, low-humidity environment away from excessive heat and airborne contaminants. Simple precautions taken today can preserve original surfaces for future generations, while careless handling may erase characteristics that collectors prize most highly. Although the 1935 Lincoln head cent is not considered one of the rarest wheat pennies by date alone, its enduring popularity comes from the remarkable combination of American history, classic design, and the endless pursuit of exceptional quality. The overwhelming majority encountered today show honest circulation where, yet every so often an unusually well-preserved example or an authenticated mint error emerges to remind collectors why this series remains one of the foundations of United States numismatics. Certified mint state red coins with outstanding eye appeal occasionally realize prices approaching or exceeding roughly $3,500 in especially competitive markets, while extraordinary authenticated error coins or superb registry quality examples have achieved substantially higher auction results under exceptional circumstances. Those remarkable outcomes never apply to every 1935 cent, however, because rarity, originality, certification, strike quality, color, and current collector demand all combine to determine individual value. That careful balance between historical significance and measurable rarity is precisely what continues to make the 1935 wheat penny one of the most studied and appreciated coins in American collecting, proving that even a humble 1-cent piece can preserve an extraordinary chapter of the nation's story. Coin 2. At first glance, the 1941 Lincoln wheat cent seems like the kind of coin that would never attract more than a passing glance. It circulated through grocery stores, gas stations, movie theaters, and neighborhood shops during one of the most uncertain periods in American history, blending into millions of ordinary daily transactions. Yet decades later, this familiar bronze cent has earned a respected place among serious collectors, not because every example is rare, but because the finest survivors tell an extraordinary story of preservation, craftsmanship, and history. The difference between an average circulated coin and an exceptional certified specimen can be remarkable, and subtle details invisible to the casual observer often determine whether a coin becomes simply an interesting keepsake or a highly sought-after collectible. As the story unfolds, you'll discover why specialists carefully examine every aspect of a 1941 Lincoln Wheat cent, what characteristics influence its collector value, and what authenticated examples have brought at auction when all of the right qualities come together. The year 1941 marked a pivotal chapter in American history. Although the United States had not yet officially entered the Second World War for most of that year, the nation was rapidly expanding industrial production while preparing for the growing conflict overseas. President Franklin D. Roosevelt continued strengthening America's defense industries as factories increased production of aircraft, vehicles, ammunition, and machinery. At the same time, ordinary commerce still relied heavily on small denomination coins, making the Lincoln cent one of the busiest pieces of currency in circulation. Introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the wheat cent had already become an iconic symbol of American coinage by 1941. Millions of Americans carried these bronze cents every day, often without realizing they were holding miniature historical artifacts that reflected both the nation's economic recovery from the Great Depression and its transition toward a wartime economy. Within months of these coins entering circulation, the attack on Pearl Harbor would permanently reshape American history, giving surviving 1941 cents an additional historical connection that fascinates collectors today. Production of the 1941 Lincoln Wheat cent took place at 3 United States mint facilities, each identified by its own characteristics. Philadelphia struck coins without a mint mark, while Denver placed a small D below the date's opposite side on the reverse, and San Francisco used the familiar S mint mark. Combined production exceeded 1 billion coins, making 1941 one of the highest mintage years of the wheat cent series. Genuine examples were struck in an alloy containing 95% copper, with the remaining 5% consisting primarily of tin and zinc. Every authentic coin should weigh approximately 3.11 grams, measure 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and feature a plain edge. Although these specifications remained remarkably consistent throughout the era, collectors understand that each mint developed its own reputation for strike quality and die preparation. Philadelphia generally produced well-struck examples in large numbers, while Denver and San Francisco pieces can display different characteristics depending on die wear, production speed, and individual minting practices. Those subtle differences often become meaningful once collectors begin comparing coins under magnification. The artistic design remained the work of Victor David Brenner, whose portrait of Abraham Lincoln had already transformed American coinage decades earlier. The obverse presents Lincoln in thoughtful profile facing right beneath the national motto "In God We Trust," while the word liberty appears to the left and the date to the right. Brenner's discrete initials are positioned near Lincoln's shoulder. Recognizing the sculptor responsible for one of America's longest-running coin designs. On the reverse, 2 graceful wheat stalks frame the inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America, with EPLURIBUSUNUM arching above. The wheat ears symbolized national prosperity, agricultural strength, and the importance of farming in American life. During 1941, however, these optimistic symbols carried additional meaning as the country prepared for enormous economic and industrial changes. While the design itself remained unchanged, the quality of individual strikes varied because mint dies gradually wore during production. Collectors often seek examples displaying sharp separation in Lincoln's hair, crisp beard details, bold lettering, and complete wheat lines, all signs of superior striking pressure and fresher dies. As these coins aged, their paths diverged dramatically depending upon how they were treated. Most entered decades of heavy circulation, accumulating scratches, discoloration, and wear that softened the finer design elements. A much smaller number escaped circulation entirely, preserving the original mint luster that specialists prize today. Professional grading services evaluate these surviving coins according to internationally accepted standards, with mint state examples representing coins that never experienced commercial wear. Copper coins receive additional color designations of brown, and red, reflecting how much original mint color remains. Fully red examples are significantly scarcer because copper naturally oxidizes over time, gradually darkening unless stored under ideal conditions. This explains why authentication and grading play such an important role in determining market value. Certified mint state red examples around MS66 have sold for approximately $1,250 to $2,150 depending upon eye appeal, strike quality, originality, and overall market demand. Those figures represent carefully authenticated collector-grade coins rather than ordinary circulated examples found in everyday accumulations. Beyond condition alone, experienced numismatists devote considerable attention to varieties and genuine mint-produced errors. The 1941 Lincoln wheat cent is known to exist with several recognized repunched mint mark varieties, particularly from the Denver and San Francisco mints, although these require expert examination because many apparent anomalies are simply damage or machine doubling. Other legitimate mint errors, including off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, and significant die cracks, occasionally appear and can command substantial premiums when authenticated by respected grading services. It is important to distinguish these from post-mint alterations caused by accidents, corrosion, environmental exposure, or intentional modification. Extraordinary prices are generally reserved only for dramatic certified errors that are well documented within the numismatic community. Careful attribution using established reference materials remains essential because even experienced collectors avoid making conclusions based solely on visual impressions. A coin that appears unusual under casual inspection may prove completely ordinary once examined by specialists equipped with proper magnification and decades of experience. Because collector demand has steadily increased over the years, counterfeiters have also become more sophisticated. Fortunately, authentic 1941 Lincoln wheat cents display numerous diagnostic characteristics that experts routinely verify. Accurate weight, proper metallic composition, correct lettering style, genuine surface texture, and precise mint mark placement all contribute to authentication. Professional grading services also evaluate microscopic die markers and striking characteristics that counterfeit copies frequently fail to reproduce accurately. Cleaning presents another major concern, as harsh polishing, chemical treatment, or artificial recoloring can permanently reduce collector appeal despite the coin remaining genuine. Preservation is therefore as important as authentication. Collectors recommend handling raw coins only by their edges, storing them in archival quality holders made from inert materials, and avoiding environments with excessive humidity or rapid temperature fluctuations. These simple precautions help preserve natural surfaces and original color, qualities that remain among the most important factors influencing long-term desirability within the numismatic marketplace. Although more than 1 billion 1941 Lincoln wheat cents were originally struck, the passage of more than 8 decades has dramatically reduced the number surviving in exceptional condition. Most available examples exhibit ordinary circulation wear, while truly outstanding mint state red coins with sharp strikes, vibrant luster, and minimal contact marks remain surprisingly difficult to locate. Registry collectors assembling top-ranked sets continue competing for these finest certified examples, creating sustained demand whenever premium quality pieces appear at major auctions. Some authenticated coins approaching superb gem condition have realized prices in the range of approximately $2,900 to $3,900 under favorable market conditions, while especially significant certified error coins or exceptionally preserved registry caliber specimens have occasionally exceeded those levels. Those impressive results never apply to every 1941 wheat cent, however, because each coin must be evaluated individually according to its authenticity, grade, originality, eye appeal, rarity, and current collector demand. That careful balance between historical importance and exceptional preservation explains why this seemingly ordinary bronze cent continues to captivate collectors, preserving within its modest size the story of a nation standing at the threshold of one of the defining moments in modern American history.